What's up, everybody? I'm Hyperactive, and welcome to the next episode of Superpowers, where I take one of my many characters and explain their abilities to you. This time, we have David Tekken, or Venomhead. Now, him and a couple other people, we used to work pretty much at a nuclear facility, but one day while working there, they were all leaving, and as such, the Ruinous Pro just decided to, land right there and make the whole thing, explode. So, boom, radiation everywhere. And they all got overly irradiated, and that caused a bunch of mutations. He was the first one to do it, though, and he's also the leader of this little mutant group. And they bring people later to mutate them as well. But this is about him, so here we go. First thing I'd like to talk about is his predatory hyperintelligence, which is what I like to call it, at least. Which isn't intelligence in the traditional sense. It's more hyper-intelligence in survival skills, efficiency, and in strategy. Which is, obviously his top priority is getting food. Him and his entire group of cannibals, and humans tend to not be very easy prey to get to, even if you were once human yourself. So, the more efficiently he can do that, the better. And it's not just about killing people, but it's also about storing them. How many can he kill at once, and how much can he store? How well can he store it? How long can he make it last? That's why he has this group in the first place. They're not there because he wants this little, mutant family or whatever. He may say that to them, and they may not know what his actual motives are, but they're just there to be used. He's just using them to help him in the end, pretty much. And that's what makes him the smartest. Next up, we have his physical mutations. The first one to probably notice is that he's kind of full of holes, and those holes are heat-sensing pits. He doesn't have any eyes, but these pits let him see 360 degrees around him. Speaking of his face, he also has 2 mouths inside of his head, and all 3 mouths have super long, flexible tongues with spikes on the end, so he can stab you from a distance. Speaking of stabbing, he also has claws on his hands and his feet. He is also very flexible on his own and can climb any surface. And finally, he has a super long tail, which also, of course, has a mouth on the end with a bunch of sharp needle-like teeth to, munch. But yeah. Oh, and I also forgot to note that all of his radiation burns he had before got turned into hardened scales, so add that to the list of physical mutations. Now we have his radiation abilities. He can spray out a acid from the end of each of his little tongue spike thingies, which I guess isn't radiation, but it's, it's toxic. And then he also has this toxic sludge, where anytime he slashes a victim with his hands or his feet, it leaves behind this kind of goopy sludge, which then he can detonate if you try to remove it, or if he hits it again. And finally is a big radiation bubble he can put around himself, where anything that's biological in its vicinity gets burned. So, if you weren't going to do it already, you probably should stay away from him. Finally, he has this big split from the tip of his collarbone all the way down to above his waist. Inside is his special move, if you want to call it that, pretty much. You see, when he got mutated, all of his organs merged together into giant intestines, pretty much. And that's what's hiding inside his body. And he can open up the split, spill out his intestines, and then control them like giant snakes, because there's mouths all over them, and they're also coated in a refined version of that toxic sludge, so they're kind of like super tough as well. Like really dense muscle, kind of covered in like an exoskeleton of the sludge. And then if you try to strike the sludge, it will explode. It won't hurt the intestines, but it will hurt you. Saying that, though, despite these monster organs being very tough, if you can manage to cut through them, it's sort of like cutting all of his organs at once. So while it is a really good special move, it's like also extremely fatal to him if it gets damaged. So yeah, you should probably aim for that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video of Superpowers, and I'm excited for the next one. Bye!